All right, I think we're live. Welcome again to another live broadcast. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Today is July the 14th, 2026. And another wonderful day. If we're alive, then that means that we must be doing okay, despite whatever problems we got going on. Today's broadcast, we're going to be talking about a few things here. I have to bring my handy dandy notebook up here, make sure I'm covering everything. Well, we've been hearing about this nationwide stomach outbreak that's been going on, and there's some warnings that are being put out here, telling us that, we need to stay away from certain produce and all of that. We're going to talk about that and what might be behind that. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to do yet another follow-up on the seemingly never-ending unfolding saga of the Uncle Nearest debacle, where Miss Fawn Weaver, who was the CEO of that company, well, there's another development that just took place very recently, and we're going to talk about that. I mean, you can't say we didn't see this coming. There's some other news, unfortunate, that we are going to touch on, that's really going on, and we got to open our eyes to the reality of these things, which is going to lead to our brief conversation on spirituality. I had someone actually leave a comment was saying that, hey, listen, I understand. I know where you're coming from. You're saying that it's a mental health issue, but I also believe it's really beyond that. It's a spiritual issue. We're going to talk about that. Is it that? Are they on to something? We're going to touch on that. And of course, we're going to do our update on the Nolan Wells story. We'll update that as well. So let's go ahead and get started here. We're going to give people about a minute to get on. And again, as always, welcome. Make sure you check out our website, Samba Tree, sambatree.com. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. This broadcast has been brought to you by Samba Tree. If you are looking for any health, natural alternatives, solutions to whatever it is that you're going through, health wise, sambatree.com is a good place to start, where we have all kinds of oils, powders, and you just saw on your screen, we just developed something called the breath brush. And that, my friend, it's better than a mint. Mints, see, they're going to have sugars. They're going to have some of these other things, or most of them do anyway. I mean, there's some natural ones out there. But we wanted to take a different approach where you're actually brushing your tongue, because during the night and during the day, your tongue is constantly releasing toxins that your body, collects over time. And that's why during the day, your breath starts stinking. So anyway, so we developed something called a breath brush. If you take a look, go to sambatree.com and you will see, the list of all the different ingredients, natural ingredients we put in there. And you definitely want to check that out. Again, it's over at sambatree.com. People are jumping on this one, so make sure you check it out. Again, one more time, the website is sambatree.com. So anyway, guys, I hope you guys are having a great, wonderful day and a wonderful week. Right now in the beautiful state of Arizona, I'm looking at it just popped up to 100 degrees. yesterday we had our monsoon. We're in monsoon season. So I was out yesterday and yeah, it was like Star Wars out there. I mean, you could see in waves the sand just kind of coming in the sky. It's really a sight to behold. And the wind, it just seemed like it just comes out of nowhere. And got up to, and then after that, fortunately, in this particular case, it where we lived, it followed up with a great deal of rain, which is great because it takes a lot of that sand out of the out of the air and all of that. So that worked out. I was actually pleased with that. And then most importantly, actually cooled it down by a lot, So anyway, Arizona has some very interesting weather. So it was actually a little bit cooler today, but you can see that didn't hold up too long, but it was humid nonetheless. So hope the weather's nice where you guys are. Let's go ahead and get into the news, shall we? So anyway, there has been in the news this and I have to go back, and unfortunately I was rushing going so fast here. But there is a nationwide warning that's being issued out right now regarding a bacteria that's impacting a lot of people in their stomachs, and they're saying that it's coming from a lot of the produce. So I've heard ranging from just stay away from certain produce to some people saying stay away from all of it. And what it's causing is a lot of people who have been complaining about just gonna say explosive diarrhea, so stomach issues, and yeah, so it's quite concerning. So, and of course, anytime we hear about that kind of stuff here, when it comes to health stuff, we definitely, it's called cycloparalysis, cyclosporiasis. I'm saying that right. But anyway, I got a woman here. She is going to describe, with she's with some details on what she has experienced with this. And let me know in the chat if you or somebody has been touched with this, and we'll talk about it because I have another video that I'm gonna follow up with. So let's go ahead and get into it.
No, it was pretty bad. It was bad. It's embarrassing how bad it was. It was really bad. There were moments where I was literally just camped out in the bathroom and like, I don't care. I'm just gonna lay on this floor. And there was like one night, I'm not a vomiter. One night I did have an episode of just like, that was actually the turning point where I was like, the next morning, I'm like, okay, we're going to the emergency room. Because I remember calling and my baby came in and she's like, what do you need? I was like, something for me to get this out in. So she's bringing me a trash can, and it was pretty bad. It was bad. It's not for the weak, I'll tell you that. And it's kind of scary to think like the effects that it would have on like elderly people or young kids or people who aren't healthy or already immunocompromised. Yeah, it's pretty bad. I couldn't keep any solid food down. I did everything. My friend joked and said I was eating like a sick dog because I even made homemade chicken and rice, homemade chicken and noodles. I couldn't eat any of it. Like, I couldn't hold anything down. And I'm still actually on the antibiotics. Like, I'm not fully recovered yet. I still have to go and get, follow-up labs because they want to make sure that my liver is, that my liver is repairing and that everything is kind of going back to where it needs to be.
Wow. And so I guess when you got the diagnosis, did you do a stool sample and it came back?
Yes, so they did. They had me do a stool sample. They said a lot of people aren't able to give them stool samples, but that's how bad mine was. I was able to give a sample. And it took, because they had to send it out to a special lab, it took several days to get it back, but I just got back a confirmation that I definitely did test positive for the parasite.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. When you got that back and you were, seeing on the TV that, oh, this parasite's going around, what were you thinking?
I was kind of creeped out because, when you think parasite, you think of like worms and bugs inside of you. Like, so I was kind of freaked out. I was just happy that I did finally go to the emergency room and get the antibiotics so that I could start feeling better, because it was one of those things where I was like extremely weak. I couldn't even do like the flight of stairs to get inside of my house without getting short of breath.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of people have been, according to, you spent some time online or whatever, quite a few people have been complaining about this. And so what has been issued out is, like I said, the range is all over the place. Some people are saying it's really narrowed down to blueberries and leafy green vegetables, which pretty much covers just about all of them. But they were saying blueberries, strawberries, all of that kind of stuff. And so pretty much the whole produce section. And they're saying that, yeah, that's where it is. I'm not here to tell you, I'm not going to tell you, hey, stay away from this, stay away from that. I'm not going to tell you that at all, because, I think that would add to, without the absolute facts, I think I would be contributing to the hysteria. You understand what I'm saying? But the fact is that the facts we do know is that they have been at least able to narrow it down to produce. Which produce? We don't know. But I want to play for you this next video here of a gentleman who's actually given us some clues about something that has been going on for quite some time. And I don't know if you guys are aware of this. We actually, a while back, we actually did a video on this as well. Something that the farming industry, they've been doing this for a while. And I want you to watch this video here, short video clip here. Take a listen to what he has to say.
First one is the parasite thing. They're talking about parasites are going to get you if you eat, I think, blackberries, blueberries, and spinach. Now, what they don't tell people is it's not organic blueberries, blackberries, and spinach. There's these interesting loopholes with non-organic versus organic. And in the non-organic loophole, they can actually use a thing called sewage to tap. So they can actually take all the feces and remnants of all the people, put it back into the tap water, and then spray it all over the crops. So when people are like, man, I don't know why I'm not feeling well when I eat non-organic food, that is because there's a thing called sewage to tap. Now, sewage to tap has been passed in like 25 states. Texas, California, New York, Florida, Arizona. I mean, we can go on and on. They recycle that back into the tap water, and then they let the farmers use that all over. So if you buy organic, you don't have to worry about that. And they're like, the parasites are going to get you, and you need to cook your, they literally said this, you need to cook your blackberries and cook your raspberries. Like, the news and the Muppets are complete Muppets. But the thing is if you go organic, you don't got to worry about any of that. There's also an interesting thing that all the AI data centers, where all the data centers are, all the water that's running off with that sewage to tap, that's also putting onto the crops and onto the food. So yes, that is the combination. So when they're trying to tell you that the parasites is going to get you and all this other nonsense, they're not telling you what's actually been going on with farming for a long time here in America. So, all fear, always. And that's why we always talk about growing your own food.
There you go. Boom. So, yeah, so let me add a few things there, what he was saying. He's absolutely right. I mean, it's like when you're troubleshooting something, I learned this all the way back in tech school, is that you got to go backwards, okay? So you got a problem, right, that you're encountering right now, something that just seemed like, oh, my God, this just happened. It just seemed like it just came out of nowhere. First thing you got to do is pause, relax, and then think about, okay, what was the last thing I did? Or what was the last thing that, thing that happened that was out of the ordinary? Did I make a left instead of a right, or vice versa, or whatever? And then you just retrace your steps basically and then you look at each one of those steps until you figure out, okay, it must have been this step. You understand what I'm saying? That's how you basically troubleshoot. So what have been some of the two of the changes that have taken place in our food supply and our water supply? Let's talk mainly about the water supply. Now, these are steps. These aren't the only ones. There's other things too that have taken place. We're just going to focus on the two that he just mentioned. One, he talked about the sewage to tap. Again, this is something that we talked about on this platform a long time ago. I think I called the video like Dookie water or something like that. But basically, yes, this is really a thing, and is actually really a thing out here in Arizona, specifically in the Phoenix area, because as you know, this is a desert area and water is in short supply. So they got to come up with some way to make sure that everybody has drinkable water. So what did they come up with? This is a technology that they've been doing for some years now. This isn't really anything new. And basically, in short, what they've done is basically figured out a way to purify sewage water, not just water coming from, not talking about the cows and the runoff from the farms, but I'm talking about the sewage that is coming from your toilets, that's coming from your sinks. They are doing all kinds of things like reverse osmosis and all this other stuff, right? And it does go through a very rigorous filtering process where it's being turned into drinkable water, and so that's for the drinkable water, right? Because there's a lot of steps. When you look at it, there's a ton of steps that they have to go through in order for it to be considered drinkable water. Now, I know that's still disgusting to me as far as I'm concerned. But there are many steps that they do go through. Now, nature itself, to add some balance to this, has also built in, when we're looking at the natural process, it's kind of the same thing. It does have nature has its own filtering process as well when it comes to water. You understand what I'm saying? And waste that is on the ground, all that stuff. We can go through that. But this is so you're dealing with a man-made version of filtering water versus the nature way. Of course, we all would elect to go the natural way, but the man-made version, like I said, when it comes to drinkable water, they do try to match it. I'm just putting that out there, right? Now, when it comes to, and this is very important, when it comes to sewage to tap, using that for water for farming, now that's something different, because I did look this up. The standard that they use for drinkable water is not the same as the standard that they use for that type of water when farmers need to use it for their farms, for their crops. Why? Because obviously they're trying to cut costs as much as possible. So they're not going to have all those steps that that are required for drinkable water to use on, for crops. So the standard is actually lower when you're using sewage to tap for farming. And so you have that going on right now. So basically you got human feces, and who knows what that standard is. I mean, I just know it's lower. So you got the human feces stuff going on, along with the animal feces stuff going on, being sprayed on these crops. So you got that, right? This sewage to tap stuff going on, as he explained. And at some point, it will, you can get, it's a very volatile thing. Now, they could go for a long time and been using it for years and everything's fine, but all it takes is just that one or two people that catches something strange, and I emphasize the word catch, something strange, and all of a sudden now you got a full outbreak like what we're seeing right now. Okay, so you got that going on. Then he mentioned the other thing about the data centers, and he's saying that also, the water, and we talked about that in the video when we talked about the data centers. We said that water is being brought back into the supply. So you got two things right there that are impacting our drinking water, but also our food supply. And as he ended up in that video, he said this is why it's important for us to grow our own food and all of that. And I mean, that goes without saying. And this is something that we all do need to take very seriously and look into that direction, because I'm telling you folks, they are kind of trying to kill us, basically. I mean, that's this, It's just as real as it gets. And so, I would say even with organic, I don't necessarily just like go blank once I see the organic symbol on something and think that, oh, okay, I'm safe. There's all types of organics out there, and the FDA standard on that can be a bit iffy as well on that. So, our food, needless to say, we all have to become food scientists. So when you go grocery shopping for your produce, always ask questions. Always ask questions. Look things up. I mean, you got all these resources online that you can look up, and you can ask questions on what are the best places for me to get the healthiest produce that's out there. There were some places that were popping up for me, some alternatives. There's a Greek yogurt place not too far from here, and these are actual Greeks that make this yogurt, and they import the milk. It was something like that, and I never thought of that, and I was like, man, I got to check them out, because, and I'm gonna have one day I'll talk about cheese and the connection to Pfizer. A majority of the cheese that we consume here in the United States, Pfizer has something to do with it. I will play that video on another day. Okay, we'll talk about that another day, and what Pfizer actually replaces out of most of the cheese. There's a natural ingredient that goes into cheese that Pfizer has replaced with some biological thing that they have put in there, and this is why so many people have stomach issues, especially when they're consuming cheese. When you consume like cheese or bread, when people have issues with their knees and stuff, a lot of times it's because of the breads and stuff and what they're putting in that stuff. But if you consume it from, these ingredients from other countries outside the United States, you got people that'll tell you, man, I've actually been losing weight, And so anyway, that's another discussion we can have there. But again, we have to become food scientists. You can't just depend on someone just, pointing you in a direction and say, just buy this. No, you got to think. You got to ask questions. You have to become literate. Literate. Yes. Literate ain't just about reading a book. It's about understanding what you've read. Okay. And so that's what we try to emphasize here on this platform. So even with food, we have to become literate with that. So so make sure you guys keep that in mind. We don't have to live in fear when it comes to our food, but we do need to be educated, and we need to ask questions on that. All right. So anyway, let's move on to the next topic here. Uncle Nearest. Uncle Nearest fires the CEO. Well, like I said earlier, I mean, who didn't see that one coming? We knew that was going to happen. Anyway, Fawn Weaver, she was the founder, in air quotes, of the Uncle Nearest brand. And we covered that. I would just say, just go into the videos that we did on this. Just do a search for Fawn Weaver, and the videos will come up. And this woman basically took the legacy of a black man who's died long ago, and basically destroyed it. And I showed you a video where she was in France somewhere, talking about she's in meetings and all this stuff. And then she said, you know what? I'm going to write a book. So she done moved on. Anyway, let's read the article. This just dropped today, matter of fact. Federal authorities are investigating Uncle Nearest premium whiskey, according to newly filed court documents that mark the latest escalation in ongoing legal battles surrounding one of the nation's fastest growing whiskey brands. According to a quarterly report filed by the court-appointed receiver overseeing the Tennessee distillery, and first reported by the New York Times, documents have been provided by both the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York as part of separate investigations into potential financial misconduct. The latest filing also confirms that Weaver and her husband, former CEO Keith Weaver, have officially been terminated from the company. The filing does not specify what either agency is investigating, and neither office commented on the matter, according to the New York Times. The disclosure comes as nearly a year after Uncle Nearest entered a court-supervised receivership following a default on more than $100 million in debt owed to lender Farm Credit Mid-America. Court records have since revealed additional financial issues, including unpaid federal taxes, disputes with creditors, and allegations surrounding a $20 million loan tied to venture capital firm Marcy Penn, which is partly owned by rapper and entrepreneur Jay-Z. Anyway, you can read the rest here, but like I said, again, this is something that we've covered quite extensively on this platform here. But like I said, again, this is a case where you have this black woman who came in, took the legacy of a black man who basically is largely credited for kickstarting I would say the whiskey industry. I mean, there was other people, but his brand really, he never got full credit for this, and but here, white people, of course, obviously they took over that brand and all of that. But then years later, many years later, this woman comes along, Fawn Weaver. She goes to his descendants and say, hey, listen, I think we can make something of this. We can resurrect his name, and we can bring, put some respect on his name and all of that. And she basically took his name, took his legacy, and ran it to the ground. She ran it to the ground. And so now she's in France somewhere writing a book. I think it's like a novel or something like that. And so now the company that she built, and the company was actually going quite successful, but there were a series of issues that was going on that she was not disclosing. Meanwhile, on social media, she was just this darling in the press, particularly in the black media. Here you got a strong black woman that's turning, that's doing this and that or whatever, but nobody wanted to ask the hard questions. And so as a result, now the company is basically, they're just piecing it. They're trying to put pieces together to try to salvage what they can. And again, this is yet another one of those issues that collectively the very people that boosted this woman are going to do the Homer Simpson meme by slowly backing up into the bushes where people are going to pretend as if this never happened. But I think this is a very important lesson, especially from a historical perspective, because if you're dealing with black history and you're talking about black legacy, this is one of those stories we definitely want to remember. Of course, we always want to remember the high points and the good things, but we also need to remember these things as well. If you are one of those that like to repeat that, black people invented this and that or whatever, then you need to also repeat this too, because that gives us the whole picture, right? So anyway, I just wanted to touch bases on that. They fired her. She gone. Anyway, let's move on to the next topic. If you're just joining us, thank you so much for being here. As always, feel free to join us here on the platform here. I will tell you up front that yeah, we've been seeing a decline in subscribers, and it's largely the fact that we have long ago, or from the jump, we made it very clear that no matter what, we're always going to stand on truth. We're going to stand on truth, and that's it. We're gonna go with the facts, and that's all we're gonna go with. We're not going with anything else but the facts. We're gonna look at the truth. And I told you in the last broadcast, I believe, I said I am going through my, this is, the website, the platform is called Samba Journeys. There's meanings behind that, but the journey part, that's the part I want to focus on for just a moment here, is that yes, we are all on a journey, and particularly yours truly, I'm on a journey, and it involves deconstructing from certain belief narratives that I'm once held on to and all of that. And I'm actually documenting those things that I'm going through in real time, leaving breadcrumbs so that you can see, okay, all right, let me, I'm kind of feeling this too. Let me see what he's saying. and let's compare notes and all that. So I try to do that the best way I can here. And I told you right now, like I said, periodically, you're going to hit that anger stage where you just mad, and for me, it's like I was saying in the last video, I said, what really angers me is really seeing now just how much people want to be lied to. I mean, people just really want to be lied to. And I saw this video that someone posted recently. This is the Nolan Wells situation. This guy had over 200,000 views on this video. And basically, the title of it was, he's talking about the white boy. It said something to the effect that these white boys are pretty much about to have charges pressed against them. He said this. And when I tell you, people out here are lying and saying all kinds of stuff. And he had over 200,000 people that viewed that video. And it just one. Then you had Ben Crump this week post an image allegedly showing Nolan Wiles at a pool party. Well, guess what? They looked into that, and the image was not accurate. In other words, and they don't even know if that's even him at the pool party. You see if I could pull it up here. But this is their attorney pulling this up. False information. Here it is. It's right here. Let me pull it up on the screen here. This is the image here. And they're trying to say, see, that's him. And this is, and you see here, Attorney Crump. But this image, as I told you, hold on, let me see. As I told you, this image, oh my God, what's going on here? And with the image I just had on the screen, I don't know what happened there. But the image I just had on there, what they're saying is that was taken on a different date. That was like weeks ago or something like that. It wasn't on July the 4th. But the attorney is putting this out here as if it were. How can you be this high-powered attorney and you're putting out that kind of false information? Well, if you saw the post that I posted on our community page, and I actually talked about this before, but this is another article. Did I post? Oh, hold on. Let me see. This is another article that someone posted. I think I posted this before, but I'm just going to show it again. Hopefully, somebody will get it. But this is the kind of stuff that people, when I started talking to like this in this latest round of unsubscribers, it was when I started posting this. I'm trying to tell you, when you stand for truth, people don't want it. They don't want to hear it. They want you to participate in the mob mentality. We're not going to do that here. Okay, it is what it is. I've been doing this for years and years and years, and I know the ebbs and flows. It always happens. Again, this is Trey Reed. Remember, some of y'all were losing your ever-living minds over this. This is the young black man who basically hung himself at this university in Mississippi. That's what it was ruled as. You had multiple agencies look into this, and they all came to the same conclusion. But you still got people out here that will not and don't want to believe it. They don't want to believe it. They still think, and even when you point out, well, a lot of the investigators were black. They weren't white folks. There were a lot of black folks that were leading these investigations. I don't care. It's Mississippi, and Mississippi's got a history, and they're racist down there. Well, don't you want to even try to look at the facts? No, I don't want to look at the facts. Anyway, let's move on. This is, again, I'm going to read this to you again. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump legal team arranged for the Colin Kaepernick Know Your Rights Camp Autopsy Initiative to fund an independent autopsy. And basically, this is Dr. Matthias Okoye of Nebraska completed it before Reed's funeral on September the 27th, 2025. Crump's team told the Clarion Ledger on October the 2nd, 2025, that the autopsy report had not been finalized. No details had been released until it was. A reporter asked for an update on March the 30th, 2026, this year. As of April the 6th, the news team had not received an update about the final report. I'm skip down here. In a statement released April the 2nd by Reed's grandmother, Sharon Candy Tillman, the Tillman and the Reed family said a lack of communication has made their grief worse. Since Trey's passing, we have been waiting for answers. Again, they're saying this year. Specifically, the results of an independent autopsy that we were told would bring clarity. The statement said, to this day, we have not received an official update. They also raised concerns about what they described as silence from their legal representation. This lack of communication has only deepened our pain and confusion, the statement said. We're concerned that our legal representation has been silent during a time when we need transparency, advocacy, and guidance the most. The same cast of clowns that's involved in this Nelson Wild story is the same class of clowns that was involved in this story. And like I told you in this last broadcast that we did called Social Amnesia, I told you that there are a lot of people that just choose to forget this. This just happened. And it's the same individual. Once I saw that, what's his name? Al Sharpton was involved, I already knew. I already knew what it was going, and I already knew what the conclusion was going to be. I already know. I said, they got to bring in all of these people that are used to making a lot of noise about a nothing. They're distractions. They have a long track record of being distractions. And the fact that they moved so quickly to get Al Sharpton, and let me tell you something about Al Sharpton. Again, watch the last broadcast that I did, because I took you on down history's path there about Al Sharpton, something he did years ago, okay? But anyway, Al Sharpton is not going to show up and lend his support on anything unless he's getting money off of it. Okay, so this, with the GoFundMe, they saying it's approaching like $1 million. He's going to get a chunk of that. And also to bring some more to this here, if you, on Crump's, where is it? On his, I'll bookmark that, right? On his Twitter page, he actually posted this as soon as I can find it here. But he's giving shout out, because I kept looking at the mother. I was like, she looks like she's, mixed or something. I was trying to figure it out. Well, she's Filipino. And let's see here. Oh, boy. I just had it up here. All right. I just have to search. Hold on for a second here. It's Ben Crump. And Crump. All right, there we go. Here it is. Here it is right here. Let me bring this up here on the screen. If you're just joining us, big shout out to everybody in the chat. Welcome. Real quick here, let's go. So Ben Crump, he said, we are grateful for the National Federation of Filipino American Associations for extending its heartfelt condolences to Nolan's family. Friends and loved ones. We are, as we honor Nolan's memory, we remain steadfast in our pursuit of truth and transparency. Let me tell you what what this really means. Okay, this organization, number one, I'm sure must have donated something to him, because again, all of these people are about money. You have to understand it. See, some of y'all just stay in this imaginative world and think that people are doing this out of the kindness and goodness of their heart. No, they're not. The world is a very cold place. It is. And Ben Crump would not be given a shout out like this unless there was something involved here. Okay. Then it goes on, as a young man of Filipino descent. Now that's going to cause some problems for the same Negroes that are out here saying that they're going to boycott Asians, right? We're going to boycott Asians. That, because I think they would be classified as that. So how you gonna square that circle? But anyway, through our shared communities. His mother, Christine, a half Filipino nurse practitioner, has shared her family's deep connection to their Filipino heritage, including returning to the Philippines every few years. And she goes on and on and on. So I could almost tell you that I'm pretty confident this organization, I'm sure, okay, and I will, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, may have made a slight contribution to that. And this is why you have Crump giving them a shout out like that. Because see, all along he's been this is anti-black, 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 anti-black. And the Filipinos like, well, wait a minute, we need to get something in this too. Everybody trying to get money, everybody trying to get broke off on this. Everybody. And people need to, but again, it's just like people they don't want to learn from history. You try to warn people and say, listen, they've been doing this stuff. They've been doing this stuff for years and years and years. It's the same play over and over again. My personal opinion on that is that I believe that you got to wait till still we're waiting for the facts to come in. There's one of the things they're waiting on is a toxicology, hope I'm saying that right, report that shows whatever going on. Did he have a lot of seawater in his lungs? Did he have any kind of drugs, alcohol, whatever? They'll be able to look at all kinds of levels in his body. But keep in mind, the longer it takes, the longer the body is constantly decomposing, right? And so here's the thing. The whole time, the family, along with Crump, has been pressing in the media saying how, they're not moving fast enough. They're trying to withhold evidence. They've been saying that over and over again. But Crump and his team, see, this is the part nobody wants to talk about, had promised that I think it was between the 10th and the 11th that the results of their independent autopsy was supposed to be made public. We're right now at the 14th and they still haven't released it. So my question to you is, why are they not pressing their own independent autopsy, the people who are doing it in Washington, D.C., why are they not pressing them to release it? Why are they not releasing it? See, here's the thing you guys got to understand. The state, the local and the state, they already got the information as far as the toxicology is concerned. They already got that. It takes time, but they pretty much got an idea of what happened. It takes time because they're still putting other pieces together. That's going to be part of their final report. But when people do these independent autopsies, which I'm all for, it's more on an accelerated pace, and they tend to find out things a little bit quicker. But a lot of times they withhold that information because they're trying to see, okay, what is the official one going to say so that they can add their little bend. Because see, people like Crump, you got to understand, he's trying to angle this thing so that he can get a civil case. That's what he does. So somehow he's going to find some way to sue these white boys or sue the state of Mississippi for something they didn't do. They didn't teach them swimming lessons. They didn't put a fence around the ocean or something like that. It's going to be something crazy he's going to come up with to try to sue somebody so everybody can get paid. I told you, one of the most black men, unfortunately, that are dead can generate the most money. It's sad, but it's true. So anyway, we're going to continue to keep our eyes on that. But let's move on. This is the final thing I just want to touch on real quick here. Let's see here. I'm just taking a quick look here. 2 stories here that just came out. Let me bring up this one here. And these are crazy stories, and we're gonna close it out with these 2 stories here. This one right here. This one just happened. And we got to talk about it, y'all. We got to talk about it. Pregnant Mobile mom 23 slain over alleged $15 lash deposit dispute. Folks, there's so many stories. I have to pare it down because I know for some of y'all it's a bit much, and it is. A Mobile woman is now facing capital woman. Yes, this all involves black folks. Facing capital murder charge in connection with the Friday night shooting that killed a young mother and her unborn child. Police says Kenedra Davis shot and killed 23-year-old China Hickman, who leaves behind 2 young children at Hickman's home on Ziegler Boulevard. Hickman's brother said the shooting stemmed from a dispute over a $15 deposit Davis wanted refunded for a lash appointment. She was killed over $15, says Jaylon Hickman. Mobile County District Attorney Keith Blackwood says Davis' charge has been upgraded from murder to capital murder, alleging she killed both Hickman and her unborn child. Over $15 lash appointment, she decided to kill 2 people over that. $15. And yet we have people out here that want to post these long ass think pieces talking about how they raise their children not to hang around white people because they don't want their children to end up like Nolan. Meanwhile, you have a dispute over a freaking lash appointment and you taking everybody out, destroying families over a lash appointment. Folks, this isn't like a onesie or twosie thing. This happens every day. Every day this happens. Every day this kind of stuff is happening. I have another story here. Did you hear about this story? I think this was in Illinois. I'm trying to find it. But there was a story in Illinois. Long story short, I'm almost over my time here. But long story short, in Illinois, there was from what I'm getting, I'm still gathering, the facts on this, but from what I am getting, what took place was that you had a young teen couple, okay? Just follow me on that. A young teen couple. You can look it up. Unfortunately, here it is. I just had it on the wrong browser. It's right here. There you go. 2 teens arrested after 5 family members killed in Illinois shooting. Real quick here. 2 teenagers have been taken into custody following a shooting spree targeting a family in southern Illinois that left 5 people dead and 2 others wounded. The 15 to 16-year-old, y'all, were arrested on July the 12th in Franklin Holton State Park, a recreation area near the city of East St. Louis. According to the Illinois State Police, the suspects were apprehended after state police officers executed a precision immobilization technique. Okay, it goes on. I'll skip down here. State police have identified 5 people killed as Sherry L. May, 49 years old, Devin D. May, 24, Patricia A. May, 74, Quentin L. Thompson, 21, and Shania W. Thompson, 25. Now, I'll tell you real quick from what I'm hearing, and I have to confirm this, but long story short, the girl that, because it was a guy and a girl that was arrested, the girl asked her family, hey, can my boyfriend live with us because he got kicked out of his home? And from what I'm hearing, they said the family was like, no, he can't stay here. Well, she got mad and the boyfriend got mad. So they decided to take up arms and wiped out the family. Folks, this happens every day within what we call the black community. And please don't give me the nonsense about, but white people do it too nonsense. No, let's talk about our home base first, okay? So anyway, someone left a comment, which was very interesting. They were saying that, Dwayne, you always talk about health, or rather mental health, and that, but I believe it's deeper than that. It's spiritual. It's a spiritual problem. It's a spiritual issue, okay? And so I believe there is truth to that. I do believe there's truth to that. However, what I told him, it was a very brief response to this. I said, number one, I said, we live in a world where people you have hundreds and hundreds of different religions that all practice their own spirituality. Okay. So you take your pick. The problem is that a lot of these people who practice their own brand of spirituality do not want to be honest. You see, it brings us right back to what I was saying. We live in a world of lies. Did I say that spiritual realm doesn't exist or anything like that? No. What I am saying is that we live in a world where people have their own interpretation on what that spiritual world is. You understand? And so, but a lot of these practitioners, a lot of times, they don't want to be honest with their own spirituality. You know, let's take Christianity, for example. You have people who will practice the Bible for at the T level. Every I is dotted, every T is crossed. They will practice it to the T. And yet, when there's a discrepancy that comes up where someone was supposed to be healed, something was supposed to take place. If you do this, he'll do that, and such, and that doesn't happen. The first thing we do, well, first thing the practitioners will do, they will always blame themselves. They will say, something I'm not doing. There's something, well, I wasn't perfect enough. I wasn't this, I wasn't that. It's always your fault. It's never the text's fault. We're taught never to question the text. We're taught never to question the God of the text, right? We're always taught you are the one that's always wrong. You are the one that's always wrong. That's what we're taught. And so I get it. For a lot of people, when it comes to this particular topic, it's kind of like being underwater and the whole time you have this breathing apparatus on and you're told, hey, listen, if you take this breathing apparatus off, you're going to drown and you're going to die. And so someone like me or others come along and say, hey, listen, you don't actually need that. Now, I'm not saying practice this in real life, but just follow me for a second. But you don't actually need that. You could take it off and you could actually breathe under here. And naturally, a lot of people will say, no, I can't. No. I need something to lean on. I have to have something to lean on. But I'm pointing out to you, well, what you've been breathing in the whole time is fart. That's what you've been breathing in all of this time is fart. So yeah, you are surviving, but are you really thriving? Are you really growing, or are you just maintaining the status quo? There's a lot more out there than just what you've been told. But a lot of people, it's like, well, I want to believe you, but if I do that, then I have to have something else. There's another religion I got to hold on to. There's something else I got to grasp onto. And what I'm saying is, no, you don't. There's a lot of things that you're going to have to unlearn. Now, I'm saying all this as it relates to getting back to my main point here is that, yes, I do believe that these issues that we're seeing, there is a spiritual element to it. But even some of the most ancient of spiritualities will tell you that that journey begins with your health and what you eat. A lot of things you eat has a direct impact on your mind, right? And how you see things, how you think, and how you process things, right? The different chemicals and stuff that you take on, the things that you see on a daily basis, what you're taking in visually, what you're taking on. I'll tell you, every day I see people walking around with these Bluetooth things in their ears, and I'm like, I don't know how they do it. I'm like, what conversation is that important that you got to always have those things in your ear? Do you understand what that is doing to your brain? So my point is that health is the starter point. I'm not saying it's the centerpiece of all it is. If you eat the right foods, you're not going to see crime. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's only part of the problem, part of the issue. But a lot of times what people do is they will pivot to spirituality as a way of escape from addressing the things that they can do for themselves. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, you have people all the time that talk about, well, it's the devil, it's spirituality. Meanwhile, you are 500 pounds overweight. You can't even conquer your weight, but yet you want to delve into spirituality? Let's talk about it. Let's be real. I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm just being real. If you can't conquer just the basic things in your health, how the hell are you going to give some deep understanding of the spiritual realm when you can't even manage the stuff that goes in your mouth? You can't even work up the will to walk every day, to do breathing exercises. I know that makes people mad, and that's why people don't, they don't want to hear that, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So that, so yes, do I believe a lot of this craziness that we're seeing is tied to some spirituality stuff? Yeah, I do believe that. But we have to be willing enough to start taking responsibility. There's that word again, on the things that we can control. And that's what we talk about here on this platform. So we're not going to just talk about the problem and talk about, oh, how bad it is and this, that, or whatever. But we're also going to practically tell you and point out things that we can handle, we can do. And by doing those things, it can lead to those other much deeper conversations. But my challenge to you is to start holding whatever your belief system is, hold it accountable. I mean, you'll buy something on Amazon, and if it doesn't work, you'll give it a bad review, right? Because the manufacturer said that if you press this button and this button, this is going to happen. But if it doesn't happen, right, you hold it accountable. So why is it that whatever your chosen belief system is, you don't do that? You always blame you. Well, I bought this cup and it keeps leaking, but you know what? It's probably because the way I'm holding it. Maybe it's because I didn't wash it well enough. Or maybe because a lot of you treat your belief system just like that. It's always your fault. That is part of the matrix system. That is part of matrix thinking, and it keeps you entrapped in thinking that way. And it always gives you an out to a lot of these issues that we should be addressing and handling ourselves. And we do have the power to do it. But it's going to take a bit of honesty and truth. And a lot of people in this world, unfortunately, don't want to do that. But that's what we try to stand on here on this platform. Okay? Our delivery may not be full of stars and all that other stuff, but I'm just going to tell you like it is, and that's what we're about here. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys got something out of this broadcast. If you want to continue the conversation, do so in the comments below. Make sure you check out our website, sambatree.com, where we got a lot of things on there for health and wellness the natural way. All right? You guys take care, and we'll be talking again soon. See you again. Take care.